Xiao Zhan. Moments that proved his resilience and character. From the outside, fame often looks like a diamond, brilliant, perfect, and untouchable. But anyone who has followed the journey of Xiao Zhan knows that beneath the glow lies a story layered with grit, grace, and extraordinary courage. His rise has not been a smooth, straight line. It has been a path marked by storms, stumbles, reinventions, and the kind of inner strength that turns adversity into legacy. This is not just an article about celebrity success. It is a portrait of resilience, of a man who, despite the chaos that once threatened to silence him, rebuilt his world piece by piece, heart first, voice steady, spirit unbroken. What follows are moments, raw, profound, and unforgettable, that prove Xiao Zhan's character isn't just admirable. It is astonishing. The humble beginning that shaped everything. Long before stages, spotlights, or blockbuster dramas, Xiao Zhan was a university student studying design. Those who knew him at the time described him as gentle, determined, and quietly ambitious, the kind of person who finished what he started no matter how long it took. Perhaps the most telling snapshot of this era was the time he formed his own photography studio with classmates. He took photos, designed logos, edited layouts, carried equipment. Whatever needed doing, he did it with both hands and full focus. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't always profitable. But it showed something essential about him. He believed in building things from the ground up. That belief would become his shield years later. The audition moment that changed everything. During the talent show audition that opened the door to the entertainment world, one detail remains unforgettable. Xiao Zhan, visibly nervous, slightly shy, but undeniably sincere, began to sing. His voice wasn't overly loud or overly decorated. It was clean, warm, and earnest. The cameras captured something rare, a young man with no arrogance, no pretense, standing in the middle of uncertainty, but giving it everything. He didn't walk in as a chosen superstar. He walked in as a possibility. What set him apart wasn't perfection. It was purity of intention, a quality he has somehow preserved despite everything that came afterward. The breakthrough success that tested his humility. When the Untamed exploded into a global phenomenon, Xiao Zhan went from being a promising talent to an international idol almost overnight. Fans adored him. Brands chased him. Interviews, endorsements, events, his schedule became a whirlwind. One cameraman later recounted an incident at an awards show. Despite being rushed by staff, Xiao Zhan paused to help an elderly stagehand who was struggling to lift a light stand. It took less than 10 seconds of his time, but it said everything about who he was. Kindness wasn't a performance, it was instinct. Even at the height of fame, he remembered humility, the crisis that could have ended everything. Then came the storm, one so fierce it shook the entire internet. False narratives, hate campaigns, online attacks so relentless they became international headlines. In an age where digital words can destroy lives, Xiao Zhan found himself engulfed in a fire he did not start. Many celebrities faced with similar public pressure have broken down, disappeared, or lashed out. But Xiao Zhan did none of those things. He chose silence, not out of defeat, but out of dignity. He did not fight back with anger. He did not blame fans or critics. He did not seek revenge. Instead, he made a choice so rare, it was almost revolutionary. He accepted responsibility not for what he did, but for what he could do moving forward. That single choice transformed him from a celebrity into a symbol. The moment he stepped back into the light. When he finally returned to the public eye, it wasn't with dramatic statements or defensive narratives. It was with something far more powerful: work. His first major stage performance after the storm was a test not of talent, but of courage. The world watched. Some cheered. Some doubted. Some hoped he would fail. But when the spotlight hit him, Xiao Zhan didn't tremble. He sang with a steadiness that shocked people, a voice stronger than before, filled with emotion that came from surviving something most people could never imagine. And in that moment, it became clear. He wasn't just back. He was reborn. The stage incident that showed his professionalism. During a rehearsal for a major televised event, a stage prop collapsed near him. It startled everyone nearby. Technicians rushed in. Assistants shouted in confusion. But Xiao Zhan? He immediately helped stabilize the fallen prop with his own hands while ensuring others moved to safety. He even cracked a light-hearted joke afterward, so the crew wouldn't feel guilty for the oversight. Witnesses said there was no anger, no complaint. Just calm leadership and quiet reassurance. It is one thing to be professional when things go right. It is another to stay composed when chaos unfolds. The fan meeting moment that melted hearts. At one fan meeting, a young girl in the audience began crying uncontrollably when she got the chance to speak. She couldn't explain why. She was overwhelmed, nervous, excited, all at once. Xiao Zhan didn't rush her, didn't try to move on to the next question. He knelt down to her level, smiled gently, and said, "Take your time. I'm here." Those 3 simple words transformed the atmosphere. The girl eventually spoke, the crowd cheered, and Xiao Zhan proved again that compassion, not grand speeches, is what truly connects people. It wasn't a performance. It was empathy, the community work that showed his heart. While many celebrities donate for publicity, Xiao Zhan often contributes quietly, without fanfare. Stories have surfaced of him sending supplies to disaster areas, supporting children's education, and participating in public welfare during times when he himself was overwhelmed with negativity. One volunteer described him as someone who doesn't want praise, only impact. Another said he stayed behind after an event to help clean up, even though no cameras were present. These are not acts done for applause. These are acts done because character doesn't need an audience. The return to theater that proved his willpower. Stage acting is brutal, unforgiving, live, unpredictable. It requires skill, stamina, emotional intensity, and endless rehearsal. Stepping into theater after a tumultuous period would have intimidated even the strongest performers. But Xiao Zhan stepped onto that stage with unshakable determination. Every performance was sold out. Every night was met with standing ovations. The critics praised his depth, discipline, and emotional range, qualities many underestimated before. More importantly, he showed the world that he wasn't a product of hype or luck. He was a true actor, a craftsman, a force. The interviews that revealed his wisdom. In one interview, when asked how he endured hardship, Xiao Zhan responded, "You can't control what people say, but you can control how you walk forward." No bitterness. No resentment, just clarity. In another, he said, "The world may change around you. What matters is that your heart stays steady." These were not rehearsed lines. They were reflections of someone who had learned to breathe in the middle of a storm. The transformation that inspired millions. By now, Xiao Zhan's journey is more than a celebrity career. It is a blueprint for resilience, a narrative of rising, falling, and rising higher. A reminder that character is tested not when the world cheers you on, but when it turns its back. Before the worldwide fame, before the screaming crowds and flashing cameras, Xiao Zhan was simply a young man walking through life with a sketchbook under one arm and a dream no one else could quite see. His beginnings weren't decorated with confetti or applause. They were painted in soft tones of ordinary life, the kind of scenes that feel simple on the surface, but carry all the seeds of greatness underneath. Picture this: a campus hallway bathed in golden sunlight, students rushing past with coffee cups, backpacks slung over their shoulders. In the middle of it is Xiao Zhan, quiet, observant, a little shy, holding rolled-up design posters and a camera that has clearly been used more than it's been stored. There is no entourage, no stylist, no spotlight, only passion. And it is in this simplicity that his character began to take shape. While many students struggled to balance classes and personal hobbies, Xiao Zhan pushed himself into a world of creativity that few dared to fully explore. Whether it was design assignments, photography concept shoots, or simply brainstorming with classmates until late into the night, he was always the last one to leave the studio and often the first one to arrive. He wasn't chasing fame. He wasn't chasing perfection. He was simply chasing a feeling, the satisfaction of creating something meaningful. One of the most memorable snapshots of those early years was an incident his classmates often told with fondness. The design department had a major project due, something that would determine almost half their semester grade. Computers were breaking down, printers malfunctioning, pressure building. Anxiety filled the room like fog. But while everyone else panicked, Xiao Zhan quietly rolled up his sleeves and began helping each classmate troubleshoot their work, one by one. He fixed broken layouts, helped re-edit photographs, even ran across campus to borrow an emergency USB drive from a friend in another building. He worked on his own project only after everyone else was settled. And somehow, despite all the chaos, his own submission ended up being one of the highlights of the class. It was a small moment, but it revealed something monumental: his instinct to serve, to uplift, to support the people around him, even when he himself was under pressure. Years later, people would say, Xiao Zhan is humble. But that humility wasn't manufactured for public image. It was part of who he was from the very beginning. There was another unforgettable scene during his photography studio days. The studio was run on passion more than money. Every piece of equipment was secondhand, every photo shoot a learning experience, every project a trial-and-error adventure. One cold winter evening, after an outdoor photo shoot ran late, the entire team was exhausted. Hands numb, clothes damp from misty air, feet aching. Everyone wanted to go home. But Xiao Zhan stayed behind. He carefully gathered props, folded backdrops, carried lighting stands back to the studio, and cleaned the lenses himself. When a friend asked why he didn't leave the tasks for the next morning like everyone else, he simply smiled and said, "If something started with me, then I should end it too." That sentence alone tells you everything about his character. And it wasn't just work ethic, it was compassion. During group assignments, he was the kind of person who made sure no one felt left behind. During rehearsals for campus events, he always offered encouragement to those who felt nervous about performing. When classmates struggled with confidence, he reassured them. When friends doubted their abilities, he reminded them of their strengths. Every gentle act, every thoughtful gesture, became a brushstroke in the portrait of a man whose character would later withstand storms far greater than he could imagine. One professor once described him as the kind of student who made you want to teach better. Not because he demanded attention, but because he listened, truly listened with respect. His eyes were always warm, attentive, sincere. He wasn't just learning the material, he was learning the lessons behind the material: discipline, patience, communication, responsibility. That same professor shared a story about a campus showcase where students had to present their design portfolios to industry professionals. Hours before the event, one student's display board collapsed due to a loose pin. Panic washed over her face. Tears threatened. Time was running out. She was on the verge of giving up. Before the words, "I can't do this," could even escape her lips, Xiao Zhan appeared beside her, kneeling on the floor with tape, pins, adhesive, and every tool he could find. He reconstructed the entire board with steady hands and calming words. The student presented her work on time, and her confidence skyrocketed. What no one saw was that Xiao Zhan rushed through his own setup afterward with barely minutes to spare. And yet, he presented flawlessly, because pressure never shook him, it shaped him. These scenes from his early years may seem small, but greatness often grows quietly. His kindness, dedication, and humility weren't lessons he learned from fame. They were values he carried long before fame ever found him. And perhaps the most cinematic moment of all came the night before his audition for the talent program that would change his life. Sitting alone in his dorm room, guitar in hand, he practiced quietly. His roommates said it wasn't the sound of confidence, but the sound of hope. It was soft, uncertain, but honest. He didn't know if he was good enough. He didn't know if anyone would notice him, but he went anyway. He walked into that audition carrying not the swagger of someone who expected to be chosen, but the sincerity of someone who simply wanted to try. And that sincerity, rooted deeply in years of humble beginnings, radiated so brightly that it captured hearts immediately. His journey didn't start on a stage. It started in classrooms, late-night studios, quiet hallways, and moments when no one was watching. His resilience didn't come from applause. It came from keeping promises to himself long before the world recognized his worth. These beginnings are what built the foundation of the Xiao Zhan the world knows today: steady, compassionate, hardworking, and unshakably genuine.